Welcome, everyone. We're going to allow people to float in here today. Welcome to our focus forum. We'll get started in just a second. We're really pleased to have our presenters here today and really have a nice group of registrants. So we're looking to share some great information with all of you. We had over 80 people register and we've got about 41 already in, and it looks like we're slowing down. So let's get this started. So welcome. I'm Rita Riker, president of the board of Focus Greater Syracuse, and happy to see so many of you with us today. Today we're going to hear plans for the future of public transit in the Greater Syracuse area, and we have experts with us who will share their knowledge and thoughts on this. Just a couple of reminders before I turn over the floor to our moderator. As usual, we're scheduled for 1 hour and we are recording this session. We've received several questions from all of you, which we have shared with our panelists. You can also add questions in the chat if you have additional questions. Focus board member Brian Hope will manage the Q&A and we'll try to get through as many as possible after the presentation. Now I'm very pleased to turn this over to our moderator, Syracuse Common Council President Helen Hudson. A longtime Syracuse resident, Helen has dedicated her life to serving members of the community, whether one family at a time or pulling together large groups to address issues like gun violence, poverty, and access to justice. Helen is there to lend a hand and to lead. As AFL-CIO Community Services Liaison at the United Way of Central New York, Helen reaches all segments of the region to mobilize people and provide access to resources. She's the first African-American female president of the Syracuse Common Council and has created new opportunities for community voice, led strategic efforts addressing issues from voter access to public safety to vital contracts. She's also committed to mentoring young people, especially people of color and new Americans, to encourage and inspire public service. Helen, is a recipient of numerous awards and recognition. She believes that our best days are ahead of us, yay, Helen, and is committed to ensuring that every member of the community prospers. Take it away, Helen.
Thank you and welcome. I want to say welcome to this very, very important conversation. It's very important that we talk about good public transportation for residents and for economic development. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to introduce you to our experts, and they're going to give you some insight into what we've been talking about, where we're at, where we're headed, and how we're going to really work together to bring this topic to the forefront. Because we all know that good public transportation is vital. It's not just vital to the community as a whole, it's vital for economic development. So with that, I am going to introduce you to our experts. Our first expert is Meghan Vitale. She joined SMTC, which is Syracuse Metropolitan Transportation Council, in 2007, and is currently the agency's principal transportation planner. Meghan earned her undergraduate degree in civil engineering and also holds a master's degree in urban planning and policy. Her work at SMTC has included land use transportation studies, multimodal corridor studies, and long-range transportation plan, and numerous public engagement activities. Prior to joining SMTC, Meghan worked in the private sector as a transportation planner and traffic engineer. And I just want to plug for Meghan on SMTC. We are very, very reliant on your work at the city as far as planning. Thank you, Meghan. And our next expert is Bren Daiss. She is Director of Special Transportation Projects and Planning for Centro. After spending more than 2 decades working for county and municipal governments, Bren places a high focus on strategic planning to efficiently transport people, shape urban form, enhance economic vitality, and improve quality of life. Throughout her career, Bren has participated in and led the development of community plans and regulations for a variety of projects, ranging from short-term neighborhood revitalization plans in Savannah, Georgia, to long-term regional transportation plans in Madison County, New York, Ulster County, New York, and Glenn County, Georgia. Bren has worked for Centro for 2 years. There she manages major projects such as Syracuse BRT and Centro's on-demand microtransit. As a member of the American Public Transit Association, APTA, and the American Planning Association, APA, Bren has served on multiple local and regional committees and presented at local and state conferences. Bren holds an AA in photography with a business focus from Mohawk Valley Community College, a BA in environmental design, urban planning with an architecture minor from the University of Buffalo, and an MFA in historic preservation from the Savannah College of Art and Design. She lives with her husband, loves spending time with her 2 children and extended family, and appreciates travel, photography, and all things vintage. So we have a well-rounded panel for you of experts to discuss our transportation, rapid transportation. So with that, let me go back. All righty, so I'm gonna give it to Meghan.
Thank you, President Hudson. Actually, Bren is going to start off the presentation, so I'm going to hand it to her.
All right.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Helen, and thanks for the great introductions. Now you've heard a little bit about me, a lot about me. I am Bren Daiss, again, the Director of Special Transportation Projects and Planning here at Centro. You may not know me yet, not everyone, but you know us. We're the Central New York Regional Transportation Authority. You know who we are and what we do, but to give you a little bit more details about the specifics, we operate a fleet of 238 revenue vehicles from 5 maintenance facilities, with the largest being our full service maintenance facility and administrative headquarters here in Syracuse. We operate services on 90 routes, traveling more than 6.1 million miles annually, and provide about 2,500 bus trips each week of regular service. Our employee count is actually down dramatically from ideal due to an industry-wide driver shortage that I'm sure you've heard about, but we're at about 580 full and part-time employees right now. And our entities include Centro Syracuse, Centro Oswego, Centro Auburn, Centro Rome, and Centro Utica, covering Onondaga County, Oswego, Cayuga, and Oneida counties. So our current bus fleet, we've got fixed route buses. You see those around town. You go to a bus stop or to the hub, you read the bus schedule, and then you get on a bus at a designated time. You ride to a designated location along a designated route. We've got Call-a-Bus, these little guys in the bottom left-hand corner. That's our paratransit service. This is an ADA door-to-door ride-sharing service for pre-approved customers who are unable to ride a fixed route bus. They can book a ride up to 24 hours in advance. We have park and ride service where you park at a designated location and then catch a Centro bus to your final destination. We have event service. So if you're going to a game at the Dome or a concert at the Amp, you can use our buses to get there directly. We've got shopper services. These buses run from specific locations to community grocery stores around town, Wegmans, Price Chopper, Tops, so you can get to the grocery store and back safely. We also have school service, where we work with the Syracuse public school system and provide rides to students to and from high school. And we offer connecting and commuter service from Oswego, Auburn, and Fulton to the city of Syracuse, as well as college and university services. So you see, we cover a large gamut of services in our current fleet. So that's all about who we are currently, but what's next in Centro's future. You may have heard about our working on an on-demand system we are excited to be working internally and with consultants to design an on-demand microtransit service. So here's some examples of what that looks like around the state and around the country. Flex on Demand is CDTA in Albany. That's that bottom left-hand corner. They expanded to several counties in the Capital District since inception in 2019. And currently their hours are Monday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 10:45, and on Sunday from 10 to 6. RTS in the top right-hand corner is their on-demand service in Rochester. Rochester has 7 zones. And when they first came out a few years ago, they had some hiccups along the way. They had some software that was needing some adjustments. So they recently relaunched their service. That was actually last fall. They are growing well and are optimistic that their new software can handle the demand that they see increasing every day. These yellow vehicles are TCAT, that's in Tompkins County, and it's called T-Connect. And TCAT only offers weekend service for on-demand, and that's in the Lansing Etna community. Riders can schedule a trip to a TCAT bus stop or other common destination, like the mall, airport, or post office, or medical facilities. So you can see that everybody has a little bit of a different system in each community. And lastly, I put this little vehicle down here in the bottom right. Wanted to include this because it was a little bit different than what we're seeing here in upstate New York. This is the Downtowner in Savannah, Georgia. And this one runs just from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. It's in only one zone in Savannah's Victorian Historic District. And it was put in place through the city of Savannah to help provide alternatives to parking for downtown employees. That's pretty much who uses it, but it is available to everyone. They use these smaller vehicles because of the smaller streets. So what does that look like for Centro? Well, again, we're working with consultants now to design the service, and we'll start at one of our Centro properties in Rome next spring. And then we plan to expand into other Centro properties in the future. We're starting with a smaller community so that we can watch how it goes and learn from the process, and then go through a quicker rollout process, but also be able to tweak things in Rome so that we've fixed them preemptively here in Syracuse and our other properties. It will be flexible in both route and scheduling. So again, it's this on-demand service. It's going to use smaller vehicles and smaller service areas. So think Uber bus. In some areas that don't have frequent fixed route service, it will be available and will allow folks to connect to more frequent service in the city center. And our goal is about increasing customer satisfaction and really concentrating on providing new transportation options to our community. So what else is happening in Centro's future? Last year, we put out an RFP for a bike and scooter share program so that we could help expand the service currently in the city of Syracuse. I was going to say Savannah, I'm sorry about that, Syracuse. And again, offer Centro communities more transportation options. So here's some examples of what we've seen around the state. The Capital Region's bike share program is called CDPHP Cycle. And that's where their transit agency partnered with a local healthcare provider for the program. It's been in use for 6 seasons and has expanded to over 500 bikes last year. RTS in Rochester partnered with the city of Rochester for their bike share program called Hopper. There's those green ones in the top right. They launched in 2021 and also have a fleet of about 500 shared vehicles throughout the city of Rochester and surrounding areas. These red bikes are in Buffalo and Niagara Falls called Ready Bike Share. And they have 3 separate zones there. So they chose to do it a little bit differently. Their zones do not connect, but they have their own geocoded areas. And as of last year, they had about 400 bikes between the 3 zones. And of course, this top left-hand corner, you've seen the city of Syracuse has Veo bikes and scooters everywhere. We are excited to be part of the growing program here in Onondaga County. And you have probably seen that they offer a couple different types of vehicles. They have the scooter, the e-bike, and then a pedal assist bike. So we see improvements in transportation by offering this kind of service. We think that it's possible folks could be using it for a first and last mile connection. It could connect the community to our fixed route buses. It's convenient and increases in overall system efficiency. And it really allows riders to go beyond the city limits. That's our initial intent in this program, because we've all seen the bikes and scooters sitting out at the city's edge, the city line on Erie Boulevard or near Thompson Road, a couple other locations that you see them and you might not realize that's where the city limit ends. And so that's where the bike and scooter actually shuts off. It's geo-coded in so that it stays in their area only. So we really wanted to just give customers the opportunity to be able to ride to their final destination on the same vehicles. So that's where we've started. We're currently working with municipalities and universities and VO to help just determine how and where the expansion should happen. But last month, we were super excited to partner with Onondaga County to expand onto Onondaga Community College, how about, to expand onto their campus. We worked with OCC staff to determine the right spots on campus for bike corrals and any areas on campus that needed to be geo-fenced out for safety reasons. And VO added about 20 vehicles to campus. Actually, it was in the month of April, so it was before the semester ended. We expect there might be even more use once the semester starts back up again in the fall. And it was very exciting. This is a photo of the app here, a screenshot on the right-hand side. It was really fun those first couple of weeks, especially when class was in session, to get on the app and look over at the school area and see, oh, they're moving around, people are using them. You can see there was 20, that was right when we dropped them off, the 20 original, but they were moving around and you could tell that folks were using them, which is awesome. What else is on the horizon? Bus rapid transit. You have heard about this, and that may be one of the reasons you're listening to this presentation today. We are in the process of planning our BRT system. So I've got a couple pictures here of CDTA. They were the first to create BRT in upstate New York, and they've actually been operating since 2011. So they've been able to give us some great examples of what works and doesn't work. And certainly we've been able to look at other areas of the country to see what's working. You can see here that it offers sleek and efficient buses, comfortable stations with enhanced customer amenities, and it's used in communities without the density and need for a light rail or a subway system, but a little bit smaller, like our size. So in 2018, SMTC led a BRT study called Smart One, and we have picked that study back up. We appreciate their lead on that. They did a great job, and so now we're working with our planning consultant to update that study, especially after the pandemic, to make sure that the numbers are all still aligned, but it's looking like they are. So we're moving that forward. This phase of the project will result in operations, service plan, and ridership assessment, plus an implementation plan. And our goal is to have vehicles on the road in 2026. So what's next for Centro? I'm going to hand it over to Meghan Vitale, who's going to talk a little bit more about the program that we've been working with them, Exploring Tomorrow's Transit.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bren. You can go right to the next slide. Bren's going to continue to click through for me, so hopefully we'll be in sync on that. So Centro asked SMTCs, well, Centro is one of our member agencies, and they asked us to assist with this public engagement process to understand how the public transportation system can better meet the community's wants and needs. So this might include a lot of the changes and new modes that Bren just talked about as well as possibly changes in geographic coverage or frequency on the fixed route system. So next slide, the next. So I'm going to walk through in the next couple of slides just the overall Exploring Tomorrow's Transit, or ETT, process that we've designed. We kicked it off by gathering a lot of existing data on commuting patterns, demographics in our region, recent ridership data, and also data from 2 previous surveys that SMTC had done for Centro back in 2017. One for riders that we administered onboard buses, and one that was mailed to non-riders throughout Onondaga County. So we looked back to that, to both of those studies, to see what else would we want to ask people now. So let's see, next slide. So we started off after building out that website. I'm sorry, yeah, the web link was on the previous slide, but that's okay. We can throw it in the chat later. So after building out the web page and putting all that data into a presentation that you can watch and learn a little bit about the background of the ETT effort, we kicked off another survey. So this one was primarily online, although we did have paper versions available. And this was to gather feedback, again, from current riders and non-riders. Again, building off of all the existing conditions data that we had collected, and some of the results from that 2017 survey. And if we can go on to the analysis, we're currently digging into those survey results. After I run through this whole process, I'm going to talk a little bit about the some preliminary things we're seeing in the data, but we're looking at those responses in the context of rider frequency, geography, and other demographics. And so we're looking for themes and trying to determine where we need to really dig in and ask more detailed questions in the next part, which will be the community discussion meetings. This will include real focused meetings on those topics from the survey that we think we want to explore in greater detail. And then finally, SMTC is going to summarize all of this information that we collected in a report to Centro. So we're not really tasked with making recommendations so much as just gathering this data, looking for themes, and summarizing that all for Centro to use in their future service planning. Okay, so next slide. So as I said, the ETT survey was primarily online. We did have paper copies available. It was open from January until mid-May, May 19th, actually, so about 4 months. One of the first questions on it asked, have you used Centro service at some point in the past year, other than for a special event such as SU Sports or the fair? So if people said yes to that, then they were classified as a rider. And if they said no, they were classified as a non-rider. So riders got a few extra questions about their experience with the existing service. So overall, there were 24 questions for the riders and a few less for the non-riders. You can go to the next slide. So we used a broad array of methods to promote this survey. Again, it was open for 4 months. So we really took this out into the community over those 4 months. We did a number of tabling events in the community. We handed out these little cards that you can see on the screen with the QR code at those tabling events and on multiple days at the Centro Hub. And that was in addition to email and social media and everything on our website. Centro sent service alerts that people get via text or email. We did presentations to a variety of community groups, and we did provide flyers to the county libraries and through the city school district. Let's see, you can go to the next slide. Within the time frame that we were administering the survey, we also held 3 open houses. And the function of this was really to, again, get the word out into the community that we were doing this Exploring Tomorrow's Transit effort, give people another way to interact with us, and to continue to encourage people to take that survey. So 3 open houses, 2 in person and 1 virtual. We took the introductory presentation that's available on the webpage with all that background data about ridership and commute modes and demographics in our region. And we turned that into a series of static display boards. So if people didn't want to watch the video online, they could look at the posters at meetings. We also had some activities at those meetings where you could draw your ideal bus route and tell us on a map with stickers where you want to see additional bike share and that on-demand service option in the region. So lots of ways to interact with us and for people to get the link to the survey and keep filling out the survey. So after that, we can go to the next slide. In total, we got 1,049 survey responses. It was pretty much evenly split between riders and non-riders. We're still analyzing all the results. So what you'll see on the next few slides is kind of preliminary still. And we are looking at the demographics. Overall, the survey returns seem to reflect what we see for Onondaga County. But we're looking at that from a rider and a non-rider perspective as well. We also were monitoring those demographics throughout the survey returns and seeing what we were getting, so we could respond to that. So like, for example, we did a Facebook ad targeted to Spanish speakers in Onondaga County to try to bump up those returns a little bit more. And we went to a few senior housing fairs that Syracuse Housing Authority and Interfaith Works held, so that we could try to get more of the senior population answering the survey. So for the survey returns, one thing I wanted to address that we're seeing in this survey, but we also saw a lot with the 2017 survey as well. And we got a lot of questions submitted prior to this forum about access to jobs, which is a crucial part of our planning process, is something we look at in our long-range plan here at SMTC and in many planning efforts. But I do think it's important to know that people use Centro specifically for a lot more than only commuting to work or to school. So Centro riders are taking trips to go shopping, to go to appointments, to visit friends and family, to access recreational opportunities. So it's really important for us to think beyond commuting when we think about transportation and transit as a way for people to fulfill their daily needs. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So one of the questions on the survey asked people to rank a list of 8 possible survey improvements. So again, we're still sorting through all of it, but something that is clearly emerging is it's all about frequency. Everybody wants more frequency, riders and non-riders. And we know that, and that was not a surprise to us. When Bren talked about the current driver shortage, and I think that's something that everybody wants to address, but frequency is really clearly what matters most to people. You can go to the next one. We asked a couple of questions on the survey related to service locations. One asked people to just name the top 3 locations they would like to see more service. And another one asked about endpoints for possible direct service, maybe service that doesn't go through the hub. So these were open-ended questions and people wrote a lot of stuff. So we are still wading through all of those responses and trying to categorize and summarize it. But what we're seeing so far is that by and large, people named places that already have a lot of service, but they want more service at those locations, or they want more options to get to those locations faster or from different locations around the county. So Destiny USA clearly pops out, SU, ESF area, and downtown. And these places, again, already have a lot of service, but this is where people want to get to and from. So I think, yeah, so I think I'm going to hand it back to Bren to wrap it up and maybe answer a few of the questions.
Thanks, Megan.
Yeah.
So we both touched on it, so I couldn't have a presentation with a bunch of folks where I didn't give a shameless plug that, hey, did you know that Centro is hiring? If you or someone you know is looking for a new career, consider Centro. It really is a great place to work. And I am reading that because I wrote it, but I wrote it seriously, that it's a great place to work. We have competitive wages, great benefits, retirement savings plan, growth opportunities, all good things. So come out and check us out. And then for the last slide, we just wrote the word questions. We did get some of the questions in advance that y'all have sent already. And so these are some of the topics. I know the moderator is going to ask us questions. So I just wanted to throw out some of these topics that we know we're going to get questions for. Thank you.
Okay, so the moderation for the questions are going to be done by Brian Holt, and I am going to turn it over to Brian.
Thank you, Helen, and thank you, Megan and Bren. I enjoyed both of your comments. We were lucky enough to get quite a few questions in advance. If there's time, we'll try to take some that come up in chat as I see people putting in, or in the Q&A feature. We had questions multiple questions on some common topics. And one that struck me was a question, I'll pull it up here, from Kathleen, who said, there are many compelling reasons to use public transit. How do you think you can motivate suburban people to use public transit? And I'll expand on that to include a few other threads that came in. One way, obviously, is what you're doing, right? I mean, this continuous investigation of what the customer wants, right, to serve the needs of the community. But I wonder also if there's a place for just convincing people that what's there already is pretty darn good. Is there a marketing component in addition to what has to happen? And it seems like you're doing well. Find out what else people want and give it to them. But is there just perhaps in our community, a lack of awareness at how much value there is already in the system? I wonder if you could speak to that, please.
Absolutely. That's a good question. Yeah, there is probably still a lack of education, I want to say. So we do have a great marketing and communications team here, and they have, I think they are their biggest they've ever been, have some social media stuff going on. So certainly reaching the public and letting them know why public transit is important. I think also the emphasis right now, we're seeing green emphasis. It's good for the environment and for everyone if public transit is successful. So that is certainly something that we are working to communicate and saying it louder. Just what you said, Brian, is these meetings and getting to know what the public is looking for and how we can help provide them, giving additional public transit options. We are really thinking about, we know that a 40-foot bus is not the answer to every transportation issue. So how do we then adjust our system to make it work better? So that's what we're working on now.
Gotcha. Megan,
I just wanted to mention, when we did, I referenced the surveys that we did back in 2017. And so one of them was mailed to 10,000 addresses in Onondaga County. And that one was specifically for non-riders. So same sort of thing. We asked for people to only answer it if they have not used Centro service within a certain amount of time. So we got about 1,100 survey returns for that non-rider survey. And one of the questions was, why don't you use Centro service right now to get to work or to get to school? Because we were more specifically focusing on commuting in that one. And the common answers were, well, the most common answer was, I need my car during the time that I'm at work or school. So that's an example of something we wanted to follow up on. And in the current survey, we asked more specifically about that. We said, do you need your car during your work or school day other than for commuting? Because we really wanted to explore that further. So again, we're still looking at all those survey returns. But I think that's part of it. I mean, there are people in the community who need to use their vehicle. They have multiple job sites during the day. We also heard people say the the non-riders saying, there's no bus line near my home seemed to be more of a challenge than no bus line near their house. And I think that speaks to a lot of our suburban communities are very low density. So walking to a bus stop is not feasible. And we followed up on that and then asked people in that survey, if those concerns that you expressed in the previous question were addressed, would you consider taking transit? And only 27% of the survey respondents said, yes, I would consider taking transit. So I do think there's a certain element of just, there are some people who don't want to use transit. And they have made a choice about where they are going to choose to live and in what type of community, and it's not something that they would consider. That said, there are other people who have made different choices and who definitely want to consider transit, but we have to figure out where we're most likely to get those returns.
Do you think the presence of, or the coming presence of on-demand, the less than 40-foot options, right? Whether it's a scooter or a bike or the on-demand options or the microtransit, I presume that would change some minds, right? I mean, it would me.
Yeah, quite possibly. And that's why we asked in this current survey some questions about people's likelihood of wanting to utilize that on-demand service and how much they would consider paying for that on-demand service.
Interesting. Gotcha.
It's also interesting to note that, around 2005-06, when gas prices went up to $4 a gallon, around the country and certainly here in Syracuse, we saw a huge uptick in ridership because gas prices had gone up so high. This time around, when gas prices hit $5, we did not see that uptick. We did not see any impact at all with the price of gas, which means the mindset has changed a bit, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. Is there any, I mean, I took macroeconomics 101 30 years ago. I don't know about elasticity, but is there a reason for that? I'm curious why that would be.
I think we're still trying to figure it out.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. Switching gears, another very common thread of questions was about Micron, right? And perhaps other large employers coming to our area. Will there be, endless bus routes that end in clay? I presume not, but I'm curious if you, Bren, you mentioned it in your slide of questions as something you expected to talk about. Curious how that moves the needle or changes the calculation. If you could both speak about that, please.
Absolutely. So I'll start and say we've been chatting with Micron. We are in those conversations because absolutely we are going to probably need to provide direct service, at least from the hub. We may also be providing direct service to Micron from other locations like Oswego or Fulton, some more remote locations that are coming in, not from downtown. So we are certainly thinking about that and are also thinking about what the Route 31 corridor is going to look like, or how it's going to change with the development up there. And that's where Meghan comes in.
Thanks, Bren. Okay, yeah, so we SMTC have a few different items on our work program for this year that are related to Micron, and then most of those were requested by county planning. So we will be taking a look, we'll be doing some modeling related to Micron development and a few other things. And one of those is to take a look specifically at the Route 31 corridor and see what opportunities might exist for some sort of enhanced transit service along Route 31. So to evaluate what the most appropriate mode might be and what sort of development pattern, density and mixing of uses, what development pattern would be necessary to support some different transit service there in the future. And I also just wanted to note that there are other organizations in the community that are also working on access to jobs. And, Bren already kind of said, maybe a 40-foot bus isn't always going to be the answer to every situation. SMTC did a study a few years ago called WorkLink looking specifically at the issue of access to jobs and things like employer-sponsored van pools, or partnerships with transportation network companies, you know, your rideshare companies. Those things are, I think, have a place in fulfilling that need. You know, transportation is a big system, and it's not just about the fixed route transit system. So we have to think more broadly on how to address that issue.
Gotcha. Megan, I'll pick up, excuse me, on a thread in your comment there that was asked about through a few different questions about the role for, say, business to play in this. You mentioned already, but, you know, through Center State CEO or just larger employers, how often do they reach out and say, we just can't get the people we want here, or we know there are people we want to work here who are having trouble getting here? What, you know, you commented on a little bit, but I wonder if you could expand, either of you, about the role for employers, whether they be corporate, healthcare, what have you, education, in the work you do.
Yeah, I mean, SMTC, right, we don't run any transit service. So we're generally not the ones that they reach out to, but I know that those reach outs have happened in the community. I know at one point Center State was working on the Commute with Enterprise program. They were trying to facilitate that conversation. There's also a vehicle ownership program through the Pathways to Apprenticeship program, I believe. And you know, Centro works with employers as well. There are the programs to buy pre-tax transit passes, and I'm sure Bren can expand on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, take Amazon, for example. We have direct routes to Amazon, and had to increase, you know, send a second bus along behind when the first bus was full. So we certainly want to continue and work more with employers to figure out how we can help. You know, it does depend on how many of their employees are going to ride the bus, but certainly folks who have a larger percentage are more likely to help subsidize or consider some partnership with Centro. And also we work with, there was a question that was combined with the universities and the school system, and we work with those folks as well to come up with a system that works best for everyone.
Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah, I see some questions in the chat, and there were some questions submitted earlier that made me think about it must be both maddening and thrilling, exciting but challenging, because it doesn't, as you both have commented on, and of course it's true, doesn't exist in isolation, right? There are, you know, changes all the time, but, you know, somebody asked, Glenn said, I do a lot of cycling. I'm an advocate for cycling and walking. What's a future plan for making cyclists safe and happy? Well, I mean, neither of you could do that, right? But obviously that's important. If part of the mix is a bike share program, how is it, I guess I'll ask this open-ended question anyways. How is it that you work with zoning and, you know, municipalities and all those other things? You know, how do you must not say, I just want to create this bike program, but I got to make sure these bikes have a safe place to go, et cetera. You hopefully get my point that I'm expressing poorly, but wonder if you could comment on that.
No, absolutely. You're right in that we don't own the roads. We don't own the parcels. So we can't make decisions on those. We aren't the municipality. So we can't make decisions on zoning, but we're at the table, right? So we're having these conversations with the county and the city and the towns, and the villages to say, if you want public transit, this is what will make it easier for us to function, right? So Onondaga County just put out their comprehensive plan, and it talks about transit-oriented development. Hey, if you have your front door on the road instead of a sidewalk, instead of a parking lot on the road, it makes it a lot easier for transit to get in and out quickly and to drop off and pick up riders. So having those conversations and thinking about all of those things, I think it's obvious that those thoughts are happening, not just at our level, but at the regional level as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe-
bicycle and pedestrian planning is a big part of what we do at SMTC. I mean, that's a lot of our work program is multimodal corridor studies. But again, we don't own the roads either, or the sidewalks with bike paths, but we try to support the municipalities in planning for that. And we've spent quite a bit of time assisting the city with their sidewalk asset management program and collecting sidewalk ratings and helping them prioritize sidewalk infrastructure. We also have, and this is a good place for me to put in a plug for our forum on active transportation. We try to about quarterly hold a meeting kind of like this. We've kept them on Zoom, where we have usually a featured speaker on some bicycle or pedestrian related topic. And we try to get our member agencies that do own the infrastructure, the city, the county, the state, Centro, to be there to listen to people's concerns and to have a conversation about bicycle and pedestrian access in the community. So we have one coming up at the end of this month, and we're going to talk about summer cycling programs that are going on in the community. So I will put that website in the chat as well, and people can get the link there to register for that Zoom meeting.
That's great. I was surprised, unless I missed it, not to have seen, but thank you to the participant who put it in chat, asking about the upcoming changes to Interstate 81 through the center of the city. What, if I presume it has some influence on this particular topic? Wonder if you might comment on that, please.
Absolutely. It does have an impact on transit, but our CEO likes to say that the buses go where the roads are. So when the roads are created, as they're being created, we're at the table and figuring out how to navigate them. I think that it's going to be years in the flexibility. So as we're all learning how to navigate around construction and into new roads, Centro is going to be at the forefront, knowing how to navigate through and getting people to where they need to go still.
Gotcha. Megan, did you want to comment on that?
I don't have anything to add to that. I mean, we've spent a lot of time looking at 81, and we will continue to support that that study effort and whatever we can do for our member agencies there.
Very good. We had a few questions, I think, at least one about cleaner fuels. I wonder if you might comment on the ecological aspect of the power. I mean, obviously bikes, pedal only bikes, pretty good, right, from a green standpoint, but I'm sure there are other things going on. I wonder if you might comment on those, please.
Yeah, this is a fun topic, actually. You all know that in the 90s, we at Centro were setting the standards for alternative fuel. We have CNG buses, and that's what we run here in Syracuse for our Syracuse fleet. So earlier this year, we applied for funding to purchase hydrogen fuel cell buses. Hey, another new cutting edge alternative powering option. It improves the performance of electric buses by generating onboard power from hydrogen to recharge the batteries. Fuel cell electric buses are awesome. They have zero emissions at the tailpipe. There's actually water dripping out of the tailpipe. They range up to 300 miles between refueling, and it takes like 10 minutes to refuel them. So we're super excited about getting those in the future. Yeah.
Do you have a sense of when that might happen?
Well, the grant went, I believe the grant deadline was either March or April. So this summer we should hear. Now we are doing the research to move forward with that technology. But certainly it will be easier to do if we have grant funding.
Gotcha. Cool. And then lastly, given the population who tend to show up, right? We're an engaged lot. We at Focus and those of you kind enough to attend today. How can people get involved, right? There are lots of surveys out there. There are lots of ways for people to share their thoughts. Not only how can they get involved, or how can they be advocates for what they believe in? Upcoming meetings, I know you've shared some, but if you could speak just a little more about the avenues, whether it's websites or direct meetings, et cetera, upcoming where people can play a part and have their voice heard.
Yeah, I see, I'm getting these like Zoom notifications that people are registering for our June forum on active transportation. So that's great. Thank you. I put into the chat the link to sign up for the SMTC mailing list. We put out an e-newsletter about every other month, and a couple times a year we try to do a hard copy newsletter as well that's highlights some of our graphics. They look better in print here from some of our studies. Follow us on social media. Centro does a great job with their social media. There's a ton of information there as well. Come out to meetings when we schedule them. Bren, do you want to add anything to that? I'll put the Centro planning link in the chat as well.
Great.
Yeah, and I would echo all of those things. Excited to see the late summer, early fall community meetings about exploring tomorrow's transit, but also, our customer service line is great. Our CSRs take comments, good and bad, and follow up on them. So if you have an idea or have some questions, certainly give us a call and we'll get back to you and get you some answers.
Very good. Well, thanks to you both. Rita, I'll turn it back to you.
Great, thank you so much, Megan, and I'm just getting myself pinned here too. Megan and Bren, really fun and exciting stuff. So thank you so much for being here and sharing the information. I'm looking forward to seeing more advances in our public transit. Helen, thank you so much for our moderator and for all of your support of public transit. And I know that you said it's a very important aspect and something you're very interested in.
Absolutely. Thank you as well, Rita. And thank you, Brian, Megan, and Bren. And I just want to piggyback on something Bren said. Central does listen, because I know when there was a community meeting, years ago, a young man had just come from California and he wanted to know why there wasn't an app where he could track the bus routes. So what happened was, now there's an app so that we can track with Central. So yeah, I'm a little excited, and I see how excited Bren is
Yeah.
talking about moving forward. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Great. And Brian, of course, thank you for moderating our Q&A. You did a great job as always. We have been recording, so this will be placed on our website. If you know of anybody who you'd like to send to who wasn't able to attend today, all this information will be on our website, easily viewable there. And as I'll say because I wouldn't be chairman of this organization if I didn't mention the fact that we do this as a free service, and we're always happy to accept any donations that people are interested in giving to us, and you can do that on our website as well, focussyracuse.com. So once again, thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend, and yay for public transit.
Yes. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.